Right, thank you everyone for coming. It's really nice to be showing today. My name is Laura, for those of you that don't know me. This session is going to be on my journey and how I found the community and myself. So I'll be sharing my experiences and the journey that led me to the role that I'm in now. I'm hoping that my experiences will help lead other people to the Microsoft community and hopefully inspire some people. I just want to start off by saying thank you to our wonderful sponsors. So Microsoft, obviously the big one, HSO, Docs 42, PwC, Proximo 3, AIS, Companional, CloudThing, Experian, Incremental, DQ Global, ATEC, Tiski, and Squared Up. So thank you to them for supporting all of us. And I just want to say a personal thank you to HCL, my employer, for being really supportive and a bit pushy actually in making practice. But no, I really appreciate them. It's been great. So a little bit about me. My name's Laura Webb, and I am a functional associate consultant for HCL. I recently completed the CIT program that HCL provides, and I now specialise in Dynamics 365 CE. My interests in the industry are generally around databases, UX and UI design, and I just love business processes. Outside of work, I do a lot of artwork, and I did do a lot of dancing pre-pandemic, but that obviously changed. And I love movies and music, and generally just trying to make my life a lot easier and simple. I have got a QR code there for my LinkedIn profile. I'll have it on at the end. I've also got some cards if any of you are not currently connected with me on LinkedIn or want to be, you can take a look at those. So my presentation will be around these four concepts. So you've got confidence, progression, challenges, and discovery. We'll start with confidence. So I want you to think about these three lines that I'm about to read to you and see if any of them resonate with you guys. So you should have done this, you shouldn't have done that, and you flit about too much. So I don't know if any of you guys have heard these said to you, or if you've even said them to other people, but I've had them said to me quite a lot over the last 10, 12 years, and they definitely had quite a big impact on me, negatively. It always made me feel like I didn't really know what I was doing, and that my choices were always wrong, and I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. But I feel like they came from a good place, but it just wasn't very good for me. So I started to follow a Dr. Sophie Moore, who is a clinical psychologist, and she's the author of a book, A Manual for Being Human. And she's great, she's quite a down-to-earth kind of person, and she, in some of her blogs, she's acknowledged that the words should and shouldn't are quite, they're criticisms, and they indicate obligation and correctness. And this makes people generally think that unless they're doing the things that people should or shouldn't do, or that they think that they should or shouldn't do, then they're doing it wrong. And I've definitely been doing things in my life that people would consider the wrong way. Like I've lived in 12 different locations over the last 10 years and 9 different jobs I've had. I don't have a partner, I'm not married, I don't have a house of my own, I don't have kids. So those people that have said this sort of stuff to me, they definitely feel like I'm going against tradition or what women should do and stuff like that. So as a result of this, joining the Microsoft community for me was a bit of a challenging concept. For me, it was like standing like on the edge of the water, wanting to dive in, but not feeling like I could. So like I didn't feel like I was going to be a strong enough swimmer, or like I just didn't know if I should go in. And this kind of feeling like started to consume me, and I one day had a bit of a panic attack, and I went to London to meet a friend for lunch, and I ended up just venting to him and just crying and getting all upset. And he said to me, look, do you want to be like these people in any way? And usually like these kind of questions I would sort of, well, not me, like, but you could easily just say what it is they want you to say. Like, just know what kind of answer they're looking for and just say it and move on and act like you're going to do what they've said anyway. But I did have a think about it, and I thought about those people that had been saying shoulds and shouldn'ts to me, and I thought, actually no, there's nothing that I could think of that I'd want to be like these people. So that was a turning point for me, and it made me feel like these people who were quite aggressive, but they had a bigger voice than me. So it was hard for me to not think that what they said was the way. But actually, after my friend had said this, I started to realise that, yeah, I don't want to be like them, so the way I'm doing things is fine. And that I like to, I'm sorry, I'm having a bit of a technical problem here. And that I like to experience new things and meet new people, and I like to move around. Like, I can't help it. After about a year, I generally get a bit antsy and I want to go somewhere else or do something else. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. Just because I'm not settled into one place, doesn't mean I'm doing everything wrong. And the fact that I want to move around and learn new things, that for me is progression. And I sort of strive on the idea of progressing. So that's my smooth transition into this section of the presentation, progression. So on the website, thefreedictionary.com, the definition of progression is a succession of quantities in which there is a constant relation between each member and the one succeeding it. So in relation to careers, for me, this kind of resonates, where you can stick at a career, stick with a company for years and years, and that's progression. You can stick at a role with different companies, and that's kind of progression as well. Or you can do what I've been doing, where you move around to different jobs in different places, but you generally develop a set of skills. That's for me, that's progression. And the way I look at this definition is by a succession of roles in which there is a constant relation between each position and the one succeeding it. So that kind of, for me, puts what I've been doing into a nutshell and makes me feel a bit better about everything. So I want to show you a bit about my journey with Nessie here. This is the back end of Nessie, obviously. So my education sort of started in art. I went to art college, and I then went on to uni to do textiles, knitting, which is a real course. It's not a bunch of us sitting around with needles just knitting hats. We used big knitting machines and was creating fabrics and stuff. I came out of that though, and I just wanted to pass. I got my degree, but I lost the love for that by the end of my degree. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I, on a whim, decided to move to up north. I lived in Harrogate for 3 months, and then moved over to Leeds, and I had 3 temp jobs whilst I was living there. I was there for about 2.5 years. I worked for the NHS in admin. I worked for a bank, which I didn't enjoy, and then I worked for a housing association. And then after a few years went by, I got really homesick and decided to move back to Kent. So I moved back in with my mum, which she was delighted about, but not everybody was delighted about that. I then started to think about what it was that I could do now that I had the opportunity to maybe train myself up in something else. I always wanted to be a teacher. Even when I was at uni, everybody else was doing work experience in designer companies and stuff like that, and I went back to my old school and I did some work experience there. So I thought I could get into a temp agency and start working in schools that way. So I was working in special needs schools for about 1.5 years, and it was probably one of the best jobs I ever had. Like, it was really challenging, but it was really fulfilling and really interesting actually. I kind of found out a lot about myself in that job, but it was really not the job to have if you wanted to move out and survive, really. So I had to rethink that, and I started looking for other work and decided to go back to like my admin skills. So I found a job in Oxford at a military charity, and I moved to Reading, and I spent a year there, and that was a really good job actually. It was really interesting. I was working on a military base and having Chinooks fly over and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. But towards the end of that year, a family member had a heart attack, and they're fine, but it kind of shocked me into wanting to be closer to home. So I started looking for other work within the company and found a project assistant role within head office in London. So I went for that and I got it, and moved to Bromley, which is actually where my family are originally from. And I was there I was in that house for about 4 months for various reasons, but generally I couldn't afford it. So I actually moved to the other side of Bromley after 4 months. In a house that was a lot more affordable. I was commuting into London every day, and it was good. And the project was 365, so I became the SME for the 365 element of volunteer network, and there was thousands of volunteers within the charity. It was a really difficult job, and it was one that nobody really wanted, which I found out on the first day when they were taking me around on tour, and everyone was like, "I'm sorry."
Sorry.
Oh, we're here for you if you need us. Okay. But I managed to amend the role so that it worked for me and the volunteers. So I was in that for 3 years, and then something horrible happened. My dad passed away suddenly, and I kind of broke down, and I just couldn't function really. I didn't think I'd be able to go to work again. I became like a really mushy version of myself. But after a couple of months, I managed to get myself back into work, and then the pandemic happened, and we all got sent back home again. I had to deal with the fact that my manager had been, she got furloughed. She was one of the ones that got furloughed, so it was just me doing both of our jobs. I was still learning to function as a human being. So that was really difficult, but I managed to step up and get on with it. I think maybe working from home made it a little bit easier. I didn't have to deal with the struggle of getting myself out of the house and going to work and stuff like that. So that helped, but it was already a lot of work for 2 people, and now it was a lot of work for 1 person, and I didn't have any extra help, and we'd gone down down a day, so we were only working 4 days a week. And I definitely needed some more resources. So this is kind of where Power Platform came in. someone in IT had said to me, why don't you look at Power Apps? So I did, and I got quickly obsessed with it. I think it was where I needed something to focus on that was not sad. So I even slept with a notebook next to my head for about 6 months, just because I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then my mum unfortunately got cancer, so we were dealing with that as well during the pandemic and the lockdown, so it was really stressful, but I still had this amazing thing that Microsoft did to keep me occupied, so I'm quite grateful for all of that. I moved back home to my mum's, and again, she was delighted, but not everybody was. I had someone in IT mention to me that there was a Dynamics 365 role that was coming up, and when I looked at the job description, I was like, there's no way, like it's quite a big leap. I just thought no one was going to take me seriously if I went for that, but the job description, the more I read it, I was like, I did that on like a really small basic level, so I should be able to do it with some studying, and I knew I was going to study because I'm quite geek about studying and I like doing it. So I did ask the guy who was hiring, but he said that there was a requirement for certification, so if I didn't have that, there was no point. So I was like, okay, fine, but I ended up talking to the she's smiling, talking to the lovely lady who was leaving, and she became my friend quite quickly and took me under her wing, thank you, and told me to follow a bunch of people on LinkedIn, and like she told me about the Microsoft Events site and Microsoft Learn and the exams, which I just generally didn't really know about. I hadn't had any other reason to look for all of that. So I did that straight away, and Kaylee's like just been my angel, like in the background ever since. It's been great. I then picked Power Platform Fundamentals to go along with because I just really loved Power Apps, and started studying for that. I then moved to Maidstone, and now I live on my own, which is great. There's the front end of Nessie. I joined an 8-week course that you guys may know Samuel Smith in the industry. He was running a course as exam prep for the PO 100, which I still hadn't done actually up until last week. So, but it was good because I met a lot of people and made some friends, which is really great. I was really happy about that, and I did learn a lot of stuff from it. The exam that I was studying for, the PL 900, I passed that, which I was really chuffed, and I actually really enjoyed the whole experience of doing the exam. I think I'm a bit weird like that, but I'm starting to feel more and more like I maybe had a chance to actually succeed in this industry. So I spoke to Sam. He gave me some advice on what I can do to get to where he is, and he said like a load of stuff. He said about like project management and like research. He gave me some names, but then he mentioned the CIT program. And to be honest, that's all I had when he spoke to me. I was like, CIT program, good way to get in. Okay, fine. So I researched that, and that's where HCL comes in. Also, she's now one of my colleagues, but she was in Sam's course as well, and she was really nice and sent my CV off to their talent team, and they got in contact with me straight away. The CIT program wasn't available for a while, so they started looking for other roles for me, and a learning consultant role came up. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I did a lot of coaching and stuff like that in my current role at the time anyway, so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I had a look at that and had a chat with the person hiring, and then they said to come back for a second interview, but I, at that point, didn't even know I was having the first interview, so I was like, yeah, okay, sure. So that was great, and I was really buzzed about that. I couldn't believe that I was going from a charity role to someone was actually being interested in me for a partner company. So I got it, and I got in, and then I went to the South Coast Summit last October, and that was great. And I joined the hackathon, which Simon and Dave were lucky to have me on their team, I think. But I didn't think I'd be able to contribute, but sorry, Alex.
Just waiting for my moment in the spotlight.
And I didn't think I'd be able to contribute because I was so new to everything and I'd only really learned stuff in my bedroom, but I did the automation, I really liked it, and that was like the only other time I did any presenting for that 1 minute. But it was a really good experience for me. And then I joined HCL and started working as the learning consultant. But after 3 weeks of being there, my friend said, "Oh, are you going to do the CIT program?" And I was like, "I've literally been in this role for 3 weeks. I would never do that where I'd immediately go from one role to another straight away." But I really wanted to do the CIT program, so I asked my manager about it, and she spoke to her manager about it, and they were really supportive, even though they literally got me for a second, and then I moved over to another team. I got into the CIT program and passed, which is great. And to this day, I'm really proud of myself for that because it was really hard. But it was a really good experience, and I made lots of new friends. And I also learned to like work in a team because I already thought I knew how to work in a team, but it turns out I didn't really know how to work in a team until I did that. But yeah, I passed, and now I'm a functional associate consultant, and I'm presenting in front of you guys at a Microsoft conference. So that's my journey like till now. I may do another presentation next year, and you can see more of Nessie and what the next year has been like. But even though it's been amazing, it's definitely had its challenges as well, the journey. I've had to unlearn all the shoulds and shouldn'ts that have been drummed into me for the last decade, but I've also had myself to contend with. I have really bad anxiety issues, and I'm quite an introvert. People generally don't know. Well, probably today, you've noticed that I have a lot of anxiety issues, but people generally don't know until I tell them, because I'm a bit of a strange combination of person, according to my mum. She's always quite flabbergasted as to why I do the things that I do, because she knows full well that I'm going to be terrified of doing them. But she does generally follow it with the fact she's proud of me. But yeah, my mum always says you're an old combo person. I mean, you can see I'm in that photo wearing a snake around my neck at work. I don't know why there was snakes there, but I was determined to put it around my neck and make sure I didn't know that I was scared. But I also have a problem with absorbing information, so that's kind of another problem that I have to deal with all the time. I always feel really inadequate, and frustrated because I see large documents, and in this job we always have like the FDD and like the really big documents that you have to write and understand and read through. And I always find that really difficult, but I started using technology more, and like the read aloud on Edge is really good, and I've been recording a lot of my meetings, which I'm sure my team are so happy about. And I've also been using like the text-to-speech and stuff like that, so I'm really grateful that that technology exists, otherwise I would find this role a lot more challenging. There's no real transition into discovery. I'm just gonna discovery. Here's the next one. When I discovered the Microsoft community, it kind of blew my mind, especially because I'd been using Microsoft products for years, and I mean, at the time, Excel was my world, and I love spreadsheets and stuff like that. I was really blown away with how everybody's so friendly, and I immediately fell in love with the community, and everybody's so willing to help, and they love to learn, which kind of felt like I found my peeps within this community. So I was talking to my colleague, who was my buddy at work, and he said to me, anything you find, share it with your peers, even me. And I really liked it when he said this, because it made me feel like this person who I consider to be a lot more experienced than me still thinks he could learn something from me. So it made me feel like a lot less intimidated than I originally felt. So that's why I'm here. I'm taking his advice on board, and I'm hoping that I can help other people with what I found and experienced. And I put together like my top 5 recommendations of how to get to sort of where I am now. So I'll quickly run through these. I'm not sure where we are for time. But the first one's to find like your patterns and skills. So if you're like me and you've had a lot of different jobs, it might be that you generally don't feel like you've got what it takes to be in the Microsoft industry or the tech industry, but I can guarantee that there's almost certainly some transferable skills that you can pass over. So there's the National Career Service, which is a really good site if you're happy to do multiple choice tests and assessments. I get all for mine again, Granger when it comes to doing that kind of thing. I'm all for making time for that. Number 2 is to get an overview of the products, so like using LinkedIn Learning and YouTube to just learn about them and get an idea of what each product's doing. And even the actual Microsoft products like Sway and Project and all of those, like all of those ones that sort of get hidden sometimes. Number 3 is networking, which I love doing. I'm not a natural, well, I never thought I was like a natural networker, but actually I think that sort of goes in hand with my odd combination scenario, that I think I'm quite approachable as a person. So as long as I'm brave enough to go out there and like throw cards and stuff at people, then we're good. But networking on LinkedIn and going to the summits and stuff like that is really, I think, is a really good thing to do, and I would recommend them to anybody. Soft skills is a really good thing to do. I don't think I even thought about soft skills when I started going for this kind of role. I was like, just all about the products, but actually presenting is a big goal of mine, and gathering requirements and analysis and stuff like that. It's all stuff that you need to brush up on or try and figure out if you already have that experience. And then number 5 is the training program. So if you can find other programs that are like the CIT program, or if you want to join the CIT program, I definitely think that's a really good idea. I'm incredibly thankful for the CIT program, because I just think it's a really nice thing for people to do, to hire people for their potential rather than their experience. So I'm really grateful for that. And the first step that was in there, I've done that quite a lot. I've gone to the National Career Service and I've done the assessments maybe once a year over the last few years, just to sort of remind myself of what skills and stuff I have, and trying to get my confidence together. And my realization is that I haven't been wasting time all this time. I've been building up the relevant skills and qualities that I think make me really good for this industry. And those are the things that I've committed to, even if I haven't committed to a relationship or one place to live in or all of those types of things. I have definitely had a path that I've been following. And my past experiences involve like admin and customer service and support and coaching and improving processes, and Microsoft has been a big element in that without me even really realising. So I might not have had the same role over the years, but I've definitely been doing the right thing, I think. And just to follow on from my metaphorical scenario, I've been basically making my way down to the water's edge, possibly with a broken compass, but I still think that with the support and encouragement that I've had from the lovely people that I've met, it's really helped me to just get the confidence to dive straight into the water. So I honestly couldn't be happier, and I'm discovering new things all the time. And I think that this will definitely be the community I want to be in for life now. Like, I really love it, and I feel like I've got a purpose now. So if you haven't taken anything else away from this presentation, I hope that you would take away that if I can get here, anyone can. I truly believe that, and if they believe in themselves and really want it, like, you have to really want it because it can be quite stressful sometimes, then you can do it. And I also think role models are a big thing. Like, I never really thought about role models before, but now I think I have like 10. So they're really good to sort of help you decide or figure out who you should listen to and who you shouldn't listen to. So that's basically my presentation. I just want to show the slides of the sponsors again. Thank you again to those. I wouldn't be here if the Scottish Summit wasn't so wonderful to let new speakers join in, and HCL for just being an amazing employer. So if there's any feedback or any questions, now's the time. There is feedback that you can give on the app, so please do that. I would really appreciate it. I do have a blog on LinkedIn, like a newsletter article called Website Story, which I kind of use to basically this in lots more detail. So do have a look at that and subscribe. I'll be carrying on with my experiences and my journey throughout that. So, and my QR codes there. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Does anyone have anything to say or questions? I'm okay if you don't.